A recent poll from Liaison shows that Mark Carney's approval rating is plummeting. Carney has done yet another photo op for a mine that is being built in Quebec that he did not initiate and is taking credit for anyway. And do the Conservatives know something we don't? It looks like they might be preparing for an election. But before we get into all of that, if you love this country, you end up enjoying this video, and you firmly believe that God has his hand over this nation, feel free to hit the subscribe button and like the video. Now, let's get into all of these very interesting stories in your Wednesday DominionWatch report. First story of the day is that Mark Carney's approval rating is plummeting. A recent Liaison poll shows that his approval rating has dropped 6 points in just 1 month. His approval rating dropped significantly over the course of last year, going from 67% all the way down to 55% just since the election win, but went back up after the Davos speech, and now looks like after Bill C-22, after more scandals have come out, more MPs are leaving him, and this controversial deal with Alberta, his approval rating is completely sinking, with no signs of stopping as of me recording this video. His disapproval rating has risen, has risen 5 points in the last month. And again, last year, just since the election, it rose all the way up to 40% from 21%. Just in 1 year. And then, of course, it went down after the Davos speech everyone loved, and now it looks like we're on track for that again with no signs of slowing down. And let me be very clear on that. The reason why this poll particularly stands out is because this doesn't look like just a little tick, a little dip. This is 6 points, a 6-point drop in 1 month. The gap between the approval and disapproval has therefore shrunk a total of 11 points in little over 1 month. This comes after 47,000 full-time jobs were lost last month in April. This comes after Mark Carney's government trying to expand medical assistance in dying to anyone that just has a mental health issue. This comes after a $67 billion deficit, completely blowing through the expected deficit for Justin Trudeau for this year. And this comes after federal polls have mysteriously gone missing. Which brings me to another thing, is that Liaison is consistently pretty liberally biased, and in their polling, they have probably some of the highest leads for the Liberals in their polls. So if they're showing that the approval rating has dropped 6 points in the last month, if that's their headline, maybe something bigger is going on. This is the most recent poll I've seen, a federal political poll. Every other pollster has, for whatever reason, gone missing. Mysteriously, suspiciously, quite frankly. I covered this in my last video, but you look at the Wikipedia page for opinion polling for the 46th Canadian federal election. Carney's Liberals went up after the Davos speech. Everyone loved it, and it was a good speech. Like, admittedly, it was a good speech. I'm a conservative, but hey, it was a good speech. I'll acknowledge it was a good speech. It went up. And then right as it started to turn around, right as the Liberals started to dip again, we haven't gotten a new poll. And I think now it's what is it? Probably like 12 days now. And yet before, we have consistently been able to expect a new poll maybe every 3 days tops, maybe even twice a day for the last year. And now that things are turning around for Liberals, and now there's a ton of terrible headlines for Carney's Liberals recently. And everyone's freaking out about Bill C-22, and everyone's freaking out about the 47,000 jobs lost, and everyone's freaking out about this Alberta pipeline deal and Alberta separation for valid reasons. I'm not trying to sound like I'm dismissing this. It's valid. I'm freaking out about these things. but you have all these bad headlines, the polls slip a little bit, and now suddenly they go missing. And we know that some of them are very open about, I mean, I think it was, don't sue me if I get this wrong, but I think it was Ecos, the CEO of Ecos, who came out and said that he was going to do everything in his power to make sure that Pierre Poilievre wouldn't be the next prime minister. One of the pollster CEOs literally tweeted that publicly. So we know that at least one pollster is biased and like knows that they're biased. So yeah, it's very suspicious. But we will get polls back, obviously. At some point, they need to release a poll. But I guess we'll see how long this gap continues off on. This liaison poll I'm looking at is the newest one I've seen since these polls went missing. So I guess we'll see what they look like. And maybe they won't be any different, maybe whatever. But I think it's also crazy, too, that they disappeared at a time when we've seen two very, actually, I guess you can maybe even argue three, very massive upsets, polling-wise, in three different provinces. BC, Ontario, and I think you could probably even argue Quebec. Ontario, Doug Ford's approval / polling numbers have dropped, like, I think 9 points in 1 month. BC has, David Eby was in the lead for months, years, and he's now like 10 points behind or something crazy like that. So you have, in the last month or two, these very massive upsets. Carney, last thing we know is that Carney's Liberals were slipping a little bit. Last thing we know, Liberals lead, but Carney approval continues to slide. It dropped 6 points in the last month from over the course of April to now. And Mark Carney has had a ton of bad headlines. I think it's rather suspicious that this has all come out at the same time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's no conspiracy here. Maybe this is just some very bizarre coincidence. But it's just very suspicious, is all. But in our next story of the day, speaking of, I guess, Quebec, the Matawini mine is underway. And Carney is, once again, taking all the credit. Now, you might think this is a good thing. And it is. A mine's good. But what's not a good thing is, or what's, I guess, yeah, not a good thing, are lies. And this mine has been underway in terms of planning, going through all of the necessary processes. It's been in planning since February of 2021. December of 2024, there was a financing. They got their financing deal for this pipeline. March of 2025, next year, Mark Carney gets elected. A year later, today, Carney gets his photo op, takes all the credit for this mine. You know, Canada's new. This is the statement that the Liberal Party put out on X. All across the country, our new Liberal government is fast-tracking the major projects that will build a stronger, more independent economy and create more opportunities for Canadian workers. So he's basically trying to send the message that this graphite mine is only underway because his new Liberal government is fast-tracking these projects. But here's the deal. This has been underway for the past 5+ years. He shows up, gets his photo up, takes the credit from the people that actually were doing the work, and gets a good headline out of it. Yeah, so I wanted to cover this to just educate you guys on what's happening here. Because what Mark Carney likes to do is there's things that have been underway for years, you know? Not because of anything Justin Trudeau did. I'm sure Justin Trudeau hated all of these projects, but the provinces can still build things themselves if they want to. Independent companies can still help out and build these things, plan these projects, fund these projects, etc. What Mark Carney seems to like to do is kind of show up on the spot, take a bunch of photos, tell a bunch of lies, and make you feel good about it, and make you feel good about this government. And he's the guy that's fast tracking this project. But this project never went through his major projects office that he loves to brag about. He had zero part in the construction of this mine. I mean, I'm happy it's getting built, but I'm not happy because of Mark Carney, because he's not the one doing anything. He didn't do anything in this entire process. And I take issue with anyone that shows up on the spot and takes credit for something that they didn't do, for work that they didn't do, and take credit for results they didn't achieve. And I think it's important that we keep our eyes open to this, and we don't take anything at face value. Especially not any posts from the Liberal Party on X. Don't take any of that at face value. Don't take anything. Don't take any post from any party ever at face value. Don't do that. I would say go out of your way to look for what you can critique about something, because, at least as far as government's concerned, because chances are, politically, obviously, they can't. Everything has cons to it. Every single thing has a catch, has cons to it. Every single thing. Nothing is perfect. So there's always something that a party or a government is not telling you. We should be going out of our way to look for those things, just so that we can have the full story. So this is the full story. Graphite mine has been in planning since February of 2021. They got their funding December of 2024. Carney shows up on the scene, gets his photo op, announces this project, pretends that he did all the work, and then screws off. Now he has a good headline. That's the full story. You may have heard of this next and last story of the day. Poilievre's chief of staff, Ian Todd, announces retirement. Ian Todd is somebody who has been working in conservative politics for about the last 50 years. In the 90s, he was a part of the Reform Party movement. He worked with Preston Manning. And after 50 years of retirement, 50 years of hard work, he is announcing retirement, as anyone who has spent 50 years doing anything would. But a lot of the news media is covering this story as if he is not announcing retirement because he's been doing this for 50 years, but rather he's leaving because he just can't stand Pierre Poilievre's leadership and dictatorial style, and it's all bad, and there's rumors that more people are going to leave Pierre Poilievre's team, and it's like, oh my goodness, calm down. The guy's retiring. Why? Because he's old. That's what you do when you're old. But something I want to talk about is their new chief of staff, Steve Outhouse, and why he's kind of an interesting pick for the party. Because you see, Steve Outhouse is actually the Conservative Party's campaign manager. And so choosing him for this position, for chief of staff, is just an interesting move, because it could suggest that the Conservative Party might be readying up for an election. So Todd said he's technically not retired yet, but he is going to retire from his position at the end of this parliamentary session. So that ends June 19th is when he's going to retire. He said, "While I am stepping away from this role, I remain fully committed to our leader and to the future of the movement. I look forward to the day when Pierre Poilievre serves as Prime Minister and Canada reaches its full potential once again," Todd wrote in a note obtained by National Post. Steve Outhouse, the Conservative Party's current campaign manager, will be Poilievre's new chief of staff. And Aaron Woodrick, currently Poilievre's director of policy, is promoted to deputy chief of staff. So that's interesting. It's two people, the campaign manager and the director of policy of the party being promoted to these senior roles. Now, on the one hand, I guess it's possible that this could mean just absolutely nothing, but I think it's just interesting to have two people in charge of the marketing of a party, now in charge of these senior, now having the responsibility of these senior roles of chief of staff and deputy chief of staff. And I think it could signal that maybe, just maybe, the Conservatives are preparing for something. Maybe they're preparing for an upcoming election. After all, we know that Mark Carney is looking like he's going to lose his artificial majority after 3 MPs might leave him this summer. Well, 2 of them we know are going to leave him this summer, potentially more, after this controversial Alberta deal that seems to have angered many people in his caucus, because most of them are from the days of Justin Trudeau, who was verbally against pipelines. Now we have Mark Carney, who at least wants to pretend to be for pipelines, even if his actions historically have dictated otherwise. So it's looking more likely that Mark Carney might just decide to go, screw it, I want my majority, I'm going to call an election. And it's looking like maybe the Conservative Party is thinking the same thing, or maybe they know something we don't. And again, with these polls missing, maybe the Conservatives, I mean, I know all the parties do their own internal polling. I volunteered for Conservative campaign in the last election. I know how roughly how internal polling goes, and they wouldn't have stopped their own internal polls, so it's very possible that they know something that we don't. Things seem kind of crazy right now in this country and in the world, but I take heart, I hold out hope, because I believe that God firmly has his hand over this nation and over this planet. That being said, though, covenant does not negate responsibility. We still have to do our part. So I encourage you guys, if you care at all about the issues, to always write to your MP, write to your senator respectfully, get involved, volunteer. I always encourage those things. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a great day.